Max Verstappen just made history, setting the record for the highest number of consecutive victories for a driver during the Italian Grand Prix. And as we've come to expect by now, Toto Wolff and company have less than positive things to say about it. The Dutchman's achievement of securing his 10th consecutive Formula One Grand Prix victory marked a significant milestone in the sport's history, but the Mercedes team boss downplayed the feat, saying that it is nothing more than an extra statistic for Wikipedia. Verstappen equaled Sebastian Vettel's record of 9 consecutive wins by clinching victory at his home circuit in Zandvoort last weekend. He faced a tough challenge from the determined Ferrari driver, Carlos Sainz, but managed to secure the win at Monza, establishing a new outright standard. With his recent triumph, Verstappen has now accumulated 12 victories in what can only be described as an overwhelmingly dominant Formula One campaign in 2023. Red Bull is currently on track to potentially achieve the sport's first ever undefeated season. Even during the era of Mercedes dominance, such remarkable streaks were not established. The longest winning run for the team was Nico Rosberg's 7 consecutive victories, but Toto Wolff implied that Verstappen's accomplishment isn't of any interest for either himself or Verstappen personally, but it certainly adds a little bit of flair to their Wikipedia profiles. Wolff said this in an interview with Sky F1, specifically referring to the rivalry between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Our situation was a little bit different, because we had 2 guys fighting against each other within the team. I don't know if he cares about the records. It is not something that would be important for me. Those numbers. It is for Wikipedia, and nobody reads that anyway. Another party from Mercedes who downplayed Max Verstappen's success is Lewis Hamilton, who claims that the 2-time world champion's incredible run this season doesn't impress him. During an interview with Sky Italia following the announcement of his new Mercedes contract, Lewis Hamilton discussed his various teammates over the course of his career. He emphasized that this level of respect for Max Verstappen's current achievements is no greater than what he has felt during previous dominant periods in Formula One. In addition to that, Hamilton said that the quality of teammates he has encountered in his career has generally been higher compared to the competition that Red Bull's Max Verstappen has had thus far. He said, "I'm no more impressed than when Michael was leading, when Sebastian was leading, when Kimi was driving, when Fernando was winning. It's just the same. I think the team as a whole is one of the strongest. They're firing on all cylinders right now. The car is incredible. The drivers are doing an amazing job. Very consistent. The pit crew is doing a great job. The mechanics are doing a good job. Strategy is doing a good job. On point. You can't fault them. In my personal opinion, all my teammates have been stronger than the teammates Max has had. Jensen, Fernando, George, Valtteri, Nico. I've had so many. These guys have all been very, very strong, very consistent, and Max has not raced against anyone like that." In response to Hamilton's negative comments, Verstappen appeared to brush it off, suggesting that Mercedes might be finding it challenging to come to terms with losing their dominant status after an 8-year reign in Formula One. While talking to the press at Monza, Verstappen said that Hamilton is jealous of his success, saying, "Maybe he's a little jealous of my current success. Maybe he thinks there is something to win, or defend with comments like that, but for me, it doesn't matter at all. I think it's very difficult for Mercedes to deal with losing. That's the problem you have when you've won for so many years, of course. But, at the end of the day, you have to be realistic as well. If it's not possible to win, then it's not possible. You have to be able to appreciate what other teams are doing as well. We did that in the years when Mercedes dominated. Back then, we just said to ourselves, we have to work harder, because at that time, we were simply not good enough compared to them. You can keep saying that all the things we are achieving at the moment are not that special, or at least that is probably what they think. But in the end, you just have to focus on yourself, because that is the only thing you can influence." Amidst the attention surrounding Hamilton's comments about Verstappen, Toto Wolff seems to view it as nothing more than light-hearted banter between rival drivers, saying, "Obviously, the drivers like to poke each other, but then you can see that Lewis raced world champions. He raced Jensen, he raced Fernando, and he raced Nico. But I don't want to, in any way, diminish anybody's performance, because Max in the car is outstanding. It's just part of the fun." Moving things away from the heated exchange between Formula One's top dogs, Peter Windsors suggests that anyone who entertains the notion that Red Bull intentionally undermined Sergio Perez by providing him with subpar equipment compared to Max Verstappen knows nothing about F1. At the beginning of this year's championship, it appeared that Sergio Perez was on equal footing with Max Verstappen as they traded victories and second-place finishes in the initial races. After securing his second win of the season in Azerbaijan, Perez was just 6 points adrift of the reigning world champion. But after Verstappen's reaction to that early season loss, where he embarked on an impressive streak of 10 consecutive race wins and surged ahead with a commanding 145-point lead in the driver's standings, Perez's performance has been less consistent. Before the Italian Grand Prix, he has achieved just 4 podium finishes, and only managed to finish within 10 seconds of his teammate once, which was in Miami. Max Verstappen's supremacy over his teammate has been so pronounced that, disregarding the competition from the rest of the field, Toto Wolff described it as odd and bizarre. He says that he is unable to comprehend how the Dutchman has consistently outperformed and destroyed every single teammate he has had. Toto Wolff's remarks have once again sparked speculation about whether Red Bull is showing favoritism towards Max Verstappen at the expense of Sergio Perez. However, Peter Windsors, a former team manager for Ferrari and Williams, firmly asserts that no Formula One team would engage in such practices. On his most recent YouTube stream, he said, "In my experience in Formula One, there is no way a team would ever deliberately run a slower second car. They would always try to run the best 2 cars they possibly could, because of the Constructors' Championship, and because it's so difficult in racing to master all the variables and to win a race. The last thing you want to do is compromise that with anything that is in your control, like the preparation of a car, or the parts that go into a car. In every race, Red Bull for sure, Christian Horner would be thinking, if Max has a problem here, we've got to make sure Perez wins this race, and he's not going to do that if he's giving Perez inferior equipment. So we've seen that does work well, and we've seen that Perez occasionally, when Max has a problem, can win a race, and sometimes he can beat Max on a good day. Anyone who thinks that Perez has been given deliberately inferior equipment, in my opinion, doesn't know anything at all about Formula One." According to Peter Windsors, the distinction between the two teammates comes from their driving styles. He points out that Max Verstappen, especially in wet conditions, possesses a softness of touch that Sergio Perez may not have. Plus, their different approaches to lines into, through, and out of corners are what make the difference in their performances. I don't think they are different, and that's just the tip of the iceberg and the differences between the two, because what I can never, and what nobody can really tell, is what Max is doing with his hands, and his arms, and his feet in the cockpit. And that's the real difference, is that softness of touch. That's something that shows up in the wet, in terms of line in the wet, and that lovely rate of input that he has, that perfect rate of input, and that's something Perez doesn't have, and that's what it's all about. What do you think? Is Max Verstappen's record nothing more than a Wikipedia stat? And is Lewis Hamilton really jealous of Max Verstappen's dominance, or is he simply telling the truth? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for the hottest F1 news.